Hey everybody, Tim Sackett back with another episode of HR Famous, and I have a recruiting, like operational famous person. Not a lot of HR. Well, you probably do a lot of HR. But Carly, introduce yourself to everybody so everyone knows who you are, and then we'll talk about kind of what you do.
Yeah, my name is Carly DeLuca. I'm with Dependable Nursing. I just took over ownership back in May. So thanks for having me today, Tim.
So you knew you actually had like a recruiting background, and then and then you worked in other. Well, tell me, I guess, what Dependable Nursing does, and then we can kind of dig in from there.
Yeah, so at Dependable Nursing, we're a skilled home health care company. So we work with patients that have complex medical needs. So we kind of have two sides of the house. It is a little bit different, and we're kind of in a unique space because we work with pediatric patients. So we have our
Oh yeah.
traditional home health care side, where we bring in sick kiddos or people coming out of surgery, and we're really trying to get them better and just back up to being able to live on their own again. So it can take
Yeah.
anywhere from 30 days up to 6 months. So yeah,
Well,
and then
and
on the other side, oh, sorry, go ahead.
like a lot of unique requirements in terms of caring for children as well, right? So like it's more difficult to find some of that home healthcare workers, knowing that like they're going to be with kind of a vulnerable community to begin with.
Correct. Yes, that we do get a lot of that, Tim. People either love the geriatric side or they love the pediatric side, and
Yeah,
it's very hard to find someone that's kind of loves both. So yeah, those are
yeah.
the challenges we face for sure.
So I know you worked in the industry before you took over dependable nursing, and like so, like what made you give you that desire to say, hey, I think I can do this? And I know before that, you obviously had worked in a lot of recruiting as well, which I know one of the most difficult pieces of home health care is just getting people to like to get there in the door. So you came with like a unique kind of, because a lot of times I think you'll know or understand or see this is that most of these kind of like home health care type facilities are usually done, are usually started by doctors, therapists, nurses. It's
Hmm.
rare that you go, oh, a recruiter. But then I look at it and go, oh my gosh, that makes complete sense because every single company I speak with in this space is like, we are desperate for help.
Yes, yes. So, just to kind of give you a little bit of a background of myself, I actually fell in love with recruiting when I was in college. I recruited for my business fraternity. And then from there, I went straight into engineering recruiting. So, for big, huge brands like Boeing. And then I went into the educational space. And then I got recruited. I got recruited over
Yeah.
the healthcare space. So, I was at a very high level there. While we did do healthcare staffing, I really went into the account manager side, so working directly with the facilities and the master service providers to get them staff.
Yeah. So I know you guys started using a new solution called Perfect Hire that's been doing really well for you. Before we talk about how that changed, talk to me something about like traditionally when you started, how were you hiring? How were you getting the talent to come in the door?
Yeah, so taking over the company, we were using a solution within Paylocity. It was a little bit of an afterthought, so it's not a great solution, but it was part of the package we had.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it was one of the first things I noticed because I have worked with a lot of ATSs, over the last 20, 25 years. And, when Olivia Nielsen approached me from Perfect Hire, she kind of showed me everything that this system could do. A lot of AI implementation, and they're starting to implement even more AI. And so it just really makes a power recruiter. You put out the job, and it gets everywhere you need it to go, and it does even next steps for you. So I love that you can personalize it to how you want your flow to go. That's
Yeah.
the biggest selling point for me.
Yeah, because I think like especially like again, you're running, this kind of mid-sized business, and like so many people get involved. And again, I think it's very typical too that whatever payroll HR system that we buy, Paycom, Paylocity, ADP, blah blah blah. There's a million of them out
Yeah.
there. We tend to just take whatever like module. Like, okay, you have a recruiting module; it'll get our jobs out there, but it doesn't really work for recruiters as well as we would hope. And so I think at some point you have to make that like that turn and decision to go, hey, like and again in your business, like staffing's critical. not
Yes.
only to like revenue growth, but also patient care, right? So it's like, hey, we have to have people. We can't just sit around and not do this stuff. So when you I want to get a little bit into the weeds because you
Yeah.
said, hey, it just does all this stuff for us, like, or the next step after, like, hey, I want to put in a rec. I need to find this person. You put that into the system. And like, so talk a little bit more specifically about like, what does it actually go and do for you?
Yeah, so once we put the rec into the system, I can actually build, kind of a persona that I'm looking for. So I don't want to get too specific with the persona, just because you don't want to isolate anyone out of the
Yeah,
system.
yeah,
You have to be mindful of that in HR,
yeah,
because you are responsible for everything. But I like that you can kind of tell it what you're looking for, right? And then it essentially goes out and starts to capture those people for you across several different job boards. And it'll actually do the preliminary assessment for you. So it'll ask those questions for you. It'll let you know how they did, or what they think, the fit rate is, or how well
yeah,
they fit into the role that you're looking for. And then from there, I love it because it actually does talk with Paylocity. So now I have the best of both worlds, right? I can do all my payroll, which it's great at. Paylocity is great at payroll,
yeah, yeah,
but ATS not so much. So it now just talks directly into Paylocity. So I can gather a lot of their onboarding, and preliminary documents, and it just goes straight into Paylocity.
yeah. No, that's amazing. So obviously there's the AI like pre-screening. Then so you're getting people that are basically vetted, right? They're not gonna like, hey, are you legal to work, or do you have the licensure you need, and all that other stuff that's kind of being
Mhm.
asked. Um, what's the next step that you guys do in your process after you have that? Is it just setting up the interview or getting them to come in person, or like how do you
Yeah. So
walk me
just
through that? And I know like I like to dig into the details of it so we know like what works for, you know.
Yeah, so after the preliminary process and they present the candidate, we do like to go in and do a phone screen with our team. So our HR coordinator will go and do the preliminary phone screen. As long as everything lines up, then we do bring them in for an in person.
Yeah.
At that time, usually, because we need such a fast turnaround process, we do their skills assessment along with their in-person interview, which you have to have in home healthcare.
So when you take a look at what you had before, like using kind of Paylocity's recruiting tech into what you have now with Perfect Hire, like what's been the single biggest change in terms of like, are you seeing more validated candidates come through because the AI is doing this for you, or like what? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Just a lot better organization optimization. Paylocity, they have a million duplicates in there and you can't delete it or you can't combine them. And it just gets really frustrating. So now I have a recruiter that's going into my talent pool and they can't figure out what from where because there's so many different profiles of that same person. Whereas this one, it's more intuitive. So it
Yeah.
kind of knows, if a person's the same, and then it connects it together, So
Oh
it's just
yeah.
easier to search. Just the notes are easier. Attaching files and anything you need is easier. It automates that for you actually, and keeps reaching out until it gets the documents it needs. So
Yeah.
it's great.
No, I mean, especially like when you're like again, you like you have a smaller team. I think a lot of people are in like that same situation where it's like, yeah, I would love to go out and hire 10 people to do all this, but like
Yeah.
the reality is just we don't have the money to do that, right? So you have to like kind of use all the automations, that you want. When you think about where the tech is, and I know it's a big change from where you came to what you have now with Perfect Hire. Is there anything else that you go like you look and go, oh, I wish it had this, or I wish this is another feature I'm looking for?
Hey, everybody, I'm Lori Rudiman. What are you doing? Working? Nah, you're listening to a podcast about work, and that barely counts. So while you're at it, check out my show, Punk Rock HR, now on the Work Defined Network. We chat with smart people about work, power, politics, and money. Are we succeeding? Are we fixing work? Probably not. Work still sucks, but tune in for some fun, a little nonsense, and a fresh take on how to fix work once and for all.
Honestly, the only thing I would say I wish it had, just so I could use it all inclusively, is the payroll side. But I just know like how like all the red tape around that, so I get it. But
Oh
I would
yeah,
say
yeah,
anything and be like, let's just use everything in here,
yeah.
right?
Oh no,
Uh,
it's the whole magic wand thing is like we want one system that does everything really good. And you're like, well, not one system does everything really good.
it doesn't. It doesn't, unfortunately. Yeah.
When you think about like where your industry is and like how hands-on, obviously, your workers have to be with patients and stuff like that. Like, where do you think AI could have like an advantage with home healthcare that you still haven't seen yet?
Yeah, I know when I was recruiting, for or staffing, within healthcare staffing, they did do a lot of the testing online, which was great. So it would be good if we could, I guess, connect some of that healthcare testing inside Perfect Hire, which I think you can do. I just haven't gotten that far yet.
Yeah, yeah. 100%. I think that's the one thing. And like again, like, as they start to launch like some of the AI agents and stuff like that too, it's crazy how you can send them out. And same thing, like they'll just keep going after it until the person completes it and gets it
Exactly.
back. And like like you and I grew up in like recruiting and like to go like the amount of calls and emails and stuff
Yes.
we had to send just to get somebody to do the basic was like it was just insanity for me, from that standpoint. Um, so what else do you think, like when you think about um, where you're at now? One of the things I wanted to dig into a little bit around Perfect Hire was how you guys are using kind of the data and analytics. I know it's one of the things that
Yes.
when I saw the system, I was blown away by in terms of just really knowing kind of where things were and what was happening. And you probably have a million things going on a daily basis as
Yes.
the
Yes.
president. So it's like how are you using those dashboards?
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up, Tim, because that is a huge part of it, right? You want to know that your process is working, and if it's not, where is it broken, right? And
Yeah,
Perfect Hire does track that for you, right? They not only tell you what your end results are or your end analytics, but they tell you where exactly in the process you're having that hiccup or where you're losing that candidate. So that is very insightful. Again, just because with a quick turnaround, it is good to understand at what point in that very quick process do I need to tighten it up a little bit more, right? And really get that clinician engaged and really want to come work for your company.
yeah, yeah. No, totally understandable from that standpoint. The single biggest failure of any tech we have doesn't. It's not even in HR or recruiting. It could be anywhere in operations. Is
Yeah.
adoption. Like when you rolled this out to your company and to your team, did you have any adoption hiccups or like what did that look like? Talk to me about the implementation side and how long that took.
I think they were excited just to get out of the Paylocity ATS because it was so frustrating. It was a pretty seamless adoption. Again, Liv came into the office almost once a week, just helping
Yeah,
me understand it and do it. And it's such an intuitive tool. It's really easy to use, which I like,
yeah.
right? You have those sales forces, which are great. You can do anything in them, but they're very, very hard to understand and use. Whereas this is a pretty plug and play, simple adoption.
Yeah, like it's interesting because I know when I sat down with the team and saw the product for the first time, I was like, it's just it seems like it was designed to built for like and it sounds corny to say, but like designed to built for people that hiring is important. Because
Yes,
we've worked within ATSs that you're like, who designed this thing? Like, do you even
100%.
want to hire somebody? And like this is like, no, if you really have to hire and it's really important for your operations, this thing cuts through all like the BS and gets right to it, right?
100%. I
Yeah.
couldn't agree with you more, Tim. And that's what I like, right? With needing so many hires, I mean, when I first took over the company, I said, what's the first thing I can do to make sure that we start getting on an upward trajectory? And they
Yeah.
said, we need 40 nurses now. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And
Oh my
so
God.
I got
All
real
right.
familiar with our tools and how much I was not excited about them,
Yeah.
and knew I needed something pretty quickly so that we could sustain that level of growth.
Well, I mean, and you're in a very competitive environment. Like whoever can get the body there that can do the work is
Yes.
going to get the business. And so as it comes down, and that's where I think it's crazy to me when I go and take a look at within your industry. the companies that are growing and doing really well tend to have really good hiring processes and technology, and they have it on the tracks, right? And the ones that are failing are either are just muscling it with a lot of bodies, which again is expensive to do and hard to like make your margins, or they're not growing the way they should be. So it's like I think to me it just seems so critical to have like the right technology, from that standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, margins are a huge deal in home healthcare. You have to hyper focus on it because they're very slim. I mean,
Yeah.
with Medicare and Medicaid, it's very hard to find, the right mix, right? But once you know those numbers and the right mix, then you know exactly what you can pay per role in case that you take on.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much. If people want to reach out, find you, is LinkedIn the best way?
LinkedIn, or we have a website, dependablenursing.com. We've been around for 20 years, so we're very well known in the San Diego community, and we'll be expanding shortly out into Riverside and San Bernardino counties.
Awesome. Congratulations on that. And thank you so much for sharing your story. If you want to dig in and have more questions, reach out. And Carly will definitely be able to help kind of share her journey with Perfect Hire and some of the great things that have happened there. And again, thank you so much, Carly. Appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. And everybody, that's another episode of HR Famous. I will make sure we do better next time, even though we did great this time. So there you go. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Tim.